Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's you here from where we dive into the fascinating world of coins, currency, and collectibles. In today's video, we're going to talk about a classic, the USA 1983 half-quarter dollar coin. If you're into numismatics or just curious about its value, you're in the right place. We'll break down everything from its history to its current circulated value, and much more. So, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. Now, let's take a look at the 1983 half-quarter dollar coin. To be clear, when we're talking about the half-quarter dollar, we're referring to the 50-cent coin, also known as the Kennedy half-dollar. The Kennedy half-dollar was first minted in 1964 following the tragic assassination of President John F. Kennedy. The coin was designed by engraver Gilroy Roberts, and its reverse, by Frank Gasparo, features the presidential seal, BY 1983. The Kennedy half-dollar had already become a staple in American currency. The obverse, front, of the coin features a striking portrait of JFK, while the reverse shows the seal of the President of the United States, surrounded by the words, United States of America, and E pluribus unum. The date, 1983, is prominently displayed at the bottom. Let's talk a bit about its composition. The 1983 half-dollar, like other coins from the 70s and 80s, is made of an 11.34-gram copper-nickel blend, with 75% copper and 25% nickel. While it doesn't have the silver content of earlier issues, the coin still holds an interesting place in the history of U.S. currency. In 1983, the U.S. Mint produced a considerable amount of Kennedy half-dollars, but they were never intended for everyday use. Despite being minted in large numbers, the Kennedy half-dollar had already begun to fall out of favor with the public as coins that circulated in everyday transactions. By the early 1980s, it was common to see these half-dollar coins being used less and less, with many people instead preferring paper currency for small transactions. Oh, give you an idea, the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar was produced in three main varieties: the Philadelphia, no mint mark, and the Denver, D mint, as well as the proof version from the San Francisco, S mint. Here are the numbers for the mintage in 1983 Philadelphia mint: 35,797,000 Denver mint, 39,710,000 proof, San Francisco mint 3,192,000. As you can see, the mintage numbers are quite high, especially when compared to earlier years where lower production often made the coins more rare. However, the widespread production didn't necessarily translate into rarity or high demand. Alright, so what's the value of the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar in circulated condition? In short, its value is primarily determined by its metal content and condition. For a coin that's seen a lot of use, like one that you might find in your spare change, the 1983 half-dollar generally holds a value of about 50 cents, which is, of course, its face value. However, if the coin is in better condition, say a brilliant uncirculated state or close to it, the value might go up a bit, generally ranging between $2 and $5. But if you're hoping for a huge windfall from this coin, it's important to know that the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar is still relatively common and not considered rare or highly sought after in most collector circles. However, there's a twist. If you happen to have a special version of the coin, like a proof coin or a coin with some kind of unique error, the value could increase significantly. Proof coins, which were struck with a special process to create higher quality coins for collectors, can often be valued higher. For example, a proof version of the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar could be worth anywhere between $10 and $15 depending on its condition. And let's not forget about potential errors. Coins with mistakes, whether it's a misstrike or something more unusual, can sometimes bring in premium prices. For example, look out for any double die errors or off-center strikes, as they can be a collector's dream. Oh, what about the future? While the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar may not be the most exciting coin in terms of numismatic value right now, it's always possible that its value could increase as collectors continue to search for higher quality coins or interesting variations. In the grand scheme of U.S. coinage, the Kennedy half-dollar is still a beloved series, and coins from the 1980s might become more desirable in the future, especially as the number of circulating examples continues to dwindle. So, there you have it, folks, the 1983 Kennedy half-dollar. While it's not likely to make you rich anytime soon, it's a piece of American history, and it can certainly be an interesting addition to your coin collection if you're into U.S. The Kennedy half-dollar was introduced in 1964 as a tribute to President John F. Kennedy, who was tragically assassinated in November 1963. The coin's design was selected in the wake of Kennedy's death, with the intent to honor his legacy and service as the 35th President of the United States. The coin's obverse, front, features a portrait of President Kennedy, designed by engraver Gilroy Roberts. The image is based on a photograph taken by Cecil Stoughton, the White House photographer. The phrase, "Liberty," is inscribed at the top, with "In God We Trust" to the left, and 1964 or the respective year at the bottom. The reverse of the coin was designed by Frank Gasparo, the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint at the time. It features the presidential seal, with an eagle holding a shield, and the words United States of America and E Pluribus Unum. The denomination $half is also inscribed on this side. The Kennedy $half replaced the Franklin $half, which had been minted from 1948 to 1963. The decision to switch designs was heavily influenced by the tragic loss of JFK and the public's desire to remember him in a permanent way. The original Kennedy $half was made of 90% silver, as was standard for U.S. coins at the time. However, by 1965, rising silver prices led the U.S. Mint to shift the composition of the coin to a clad version, made of 40% silver and 60% copper. From 1964 to 1970, the Kennedy $half was widely circulated, but by the early 1970s, its use in everyday transactions began to decline. It became more of a collector's item than a coin regularly used in circulation. During the 1970s, the Kennedy $half was gradually phased out of circulation. The rising costs of minting these coins and the public's shift away from using them for small transactions led to reduced demand. In 1971, the U.S. Mint stopped producing the coin for general circulation, but it continued to mint special edition proof coins for collectors. In 1983, when the coin was still being minted, it was no longer in active circulation. The majority of Kennedy $half were being held as collector's items or stored away, rather than used in everyday transactions. The 1983 Kennedy $half had a mintage of over 75 million coins between the Philadelphia and Denver mints. However, most of these coins never made it into the hands of the public. The primary reason for this is that by the early 1980s, the coin had become somewhat obsolete in daily commerce. People preferred using smaller denominations or paper currency, which led to the Kennedy $half being less frequently seen in circulation. In 1983, the U.S. Mint produced three types of the coin: Philadelphia, no mint mark, ***, 35,797,000 coins minted; Denver, D mint mark, ***, 39,710,000 coins minted; Proof, San Francisco, S mint mark, ***, 3,192,000 coins minted. While the coin was still produced in large numbers, the demand for it was low, and the coin was largely absent from general circulation. Most of the 1983 Kennedy $half were either stored in banks, collected by numismatists, or stored away in vaults. Proof coins were sold to collectors for a premium price, but the standard circulation versions had little to no demand at the time. Today, the 1983 Kennedy $half holds some value for collectors, though it is not considered rare or highly valuable in terms of circulating coins. Its primary value comes from being a part of a long-running series of coins, and it's often collected by those interested in U.S. coinage history. Despite being minted in the billions during the late 20th century, Kennedy $half have not been used in everyday transactions for many years. The 1983 version, like many other coins from this period, remains primarily a numismatic item, appreciated by coin collectors but not commonly seen in pocket change. The 1983 Kennedy $half is a reflection of a time when the U.S. Mint was continuing the tradition of honoring President John F. Kennedy while also dealing with a shift in how coins were used by the public. Although it was produced in large quantities, it didn't have much practical use in circulation. Today, the 1983 coin holds some collector interest but is not regarded as highly valuable compared to other rare or historical coins in the series. 1977 USA half-quarter dollar ***. What it is, its history, and most importantly, its circulated value today. First off, let's clear up a little confusion. The term half-quarter dollar is sometimes used interchangeably with the $half coin, but the official name is actually just $half. It's worth 50 cents, exactly half of a dollar, so it's essentially 2 quarters combined. The 1977 coin belongs to the Kennedy $half series, first minted in 1964 in honor of President John F. Kennedy. This coin features the classic portrait of JFK on the obverse and the presidential seal on the reverse. The 1977 $half was part of the continued production of Kennedy $half during a period when the coin was still minted primarily for circulation but starting to become more popular among collectors, in the 1970s. The composition changed from the original 90% silver in 1964 to a 40% silver clad for 1965 to 1970 coins, and then by 1971, the coin was made from a copper-nickel clad composition. So the 1977 coin has no silver content. This means the 1977 half-dollar is mostly made of copper and nickel, which affects both its value and collectability. Circulated coin means it's been used in everyday transactions. So, expect to see signs of wear like scratches, faded details on JFK's hair, and a less sharp presidential seal. Compare that to an uncirculated coin, which looks almost brand new, with crisp details and no surface marks. Oh, what's the value of a circulated 1977 Kennedy half-dollar? In circulated condition, these coins are mostly worth their face value, 50 cents.
Why?
Because there is no silver content in the 1977 coin, so its metal value is roughly equal to its face value, and the coin collecting market, unless your coin has a rare mint error or is in exceptionally high condition, almost uncirculated or better, it won't fetch much more than 50 cents. Now, there are a few things that could increase the value. The 1977 half-dollar was minted in Philadelphia, no mint mark, and Denver, D mint mark. Both coins are common, so no big value difference there. Look for errors like double dies, off-center strikes, or missing mint marks. Those can be worth more. Uncirculated or proof versions can fetch anywhere from $5 to $10 or more depending on the grade. Sometimes demand spikes due to special sets or anniversaries, which can bump the value slightly. If you're starting to collect Kennedy half-dollars or just want to see if you have a valuable 1977 coin in your pocket, here's what you should do. Check the condition ***. Look for scratches, wear, and the sharpness of details. Look for mint marks ***. Check the back near the eagle for a D mint mark. Keep an eye out for errors ***. These are rare but valuable. Protect your coins ***. Store them in coin holders or albums to preserve their condition. If your 1977 half-dollar is circulated, keep in mind it's mostly worth face value. But if you find a special error or an uncirculated specimen, it might be worth holding on to or selling to a collector. The 1965 USA half-quarter dollar coin. If you're a coin collector or just someone interested in the value of older coins, this video is for you. In this deep dive, we'll explore the history, significance, and current circulated value of the 1965 half-quarter dollar, also known as the Kennedy half-dollar. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps out the channel. Now, let's get into it. Here's a close-up of the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar. But wait, you might be asking, why does it say half-quarter dollar on the title? That's because, although it's technically a half-dollar, there's been some confusion over the years, and we'll clear that up in a moment. The Kennedy half-dollar was first introduced in 1964 to honor the late President John F. Kennedy, following his tragic assassination in November 1963. The coin was a tribute to his leadership and legacy. The 1965 version, though, holds a special place in the hearts of collectors and is especially significant because it was the first year the U.S. Mint began producing coins without using silver. In the wake of rising silver prices, the U.S. government began reducing the silver content of many of its coins, including the Kennedy half-dollar. Before 1965, the Kennedy half-dollar was made of 90% silver and 10% copper. But starting in 1965, the U.S. Mint switched to a copper-nickel clad composition. The 1965 Kennedy half-dollar contains just 40% silver, with the rest being copper-nickel. The transition from a higher silver content to a lower one marked the beginning of a new era in U.S. coinage. The government wanted to combat the rising cost of silver, and this change was crucial for the continued production of coins. Now, let's talk about the value of the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar in circulated. This is mainly due to the current spot price of silver, which fluctuates over time. If the coin is heavily worn or has seen a lot of circulation, it might be on the lower end of the scale. But if it's in good condition, with minimal wear, you could see it selling for a bit more. And if you come across a coin in uncirculated or near-mint condition, the value could climb much higher. For reference, if you're curious, in 2025, silver is generally hovering around $25-$30 per ounce. Since the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar has about 0.3617 ounces of silver, the intrinsic silver value of these coins are often graded by professional numismatists. Some collectors love the thrill of finding coins with minting errors, and the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar is no exception. If you happen to find one with a unique or rare error, such as a double die or off-center strike, its value could be significantly higher. Let's take a quick look back. The introduction of the Kennedy half-dollar was meant to be a tribute to one of America's most beloved presidents. Over the years, the design of the coin has undergone a few changes, but the image of President Kennedy's profile has remained the centerpiece. From its initial release in 1964 through the years of circulation, the Kennedy half-dollar has become more than just a coin. It's a symbol of respect for a fallen leader and a reminder of a pivotal time in American history. So, to sum it up, the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar is a historically significant coin, especially given its transition away from silver. In terms of circulated value, it's worth a little more than its face value, mainly due to the silver content. But its real worth to collectors depends on its condition, mint mark, and any potential errors. If you're a coin collector, or even if you just stumbled upon a 1965 Kennedy half-dollar in your change, keep an eye on its condition. You might be holding onto a piece of American history that could be worth more than you think. 1963, President John F. Kennedy was tragically assassinated, sending shockwaves through the nation. In response, the U.S. Mint decided to honor Kennedy with a new coin, the Kennedy half-dollar, which was officially introduced in 1964. The coin depicted Kennedy's profile on the obverse, designed by sculptor Gilroy Roberts, while the reverse featured the Great Seal of the United States. The Kennedy half-dollar was originally produced with a composition of 90% silver and 10% copper, similar to previous half-dollar coins. However, by 1965, a major change was underway in U.S. coinage production due to the rising price of silver, which was putting pressure on the U.S. Mint. In 1965, due to the increasing cost of silver, the U.S. Mint made the bold decision to reduce the amount of silver in coins. Starting in 1965, the Kennedy half-dollar was produced with a 40% silver and 60% copper-nickel-clad composition. This was a significant shift, marking the end of the era of silver coinage for most U.S. coins, except for the dollar coins and certain commemorative coins. The Kennedy half-dollar was part of a larger effort to deal with rising metal costs. By reducing the amount of silver in coins like the half-dollar, the U.S. government aimed to preserve the coinage system while cutting costs. This change was part of a broader national shift away from silver in regular circulation coins, a process that continued into the 1970s. The 1965 Kennedy half-dollar was minted in 3 locations: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D; and San Francisco, S. The 1965 coin was minted in huge quantities, as it was part of a larger effort to replace older coins. The coin was still widely circulated, and many of them, especially those in less than perfect condition, are commonly found today. The design of the coin itself, especially in the years following JFK's death, carried deep symbolic meaning. The Kennedy half-dollar came to symbolize not only the late president's legacy but also the spirit of a nation grappling with loss. The image of Kennedy was powerful in its simplicity and immediacy, a tribute to his vision and his life. The 1965 Kennedy half-dollar marks a turning point in U.S. coinage. It was the first year in which the U.S. Mint switched from silver to a clad composition, signaling the end of an era in coin production. It also began the tradition of producing the Kennedy half-dollar in massive quantities, with the coin still in circulation today, albeit with lesser demand. The 40% silver content of the 1965 Kennedy half-dollar means that it holds intrinsic value based on its metal content, in addition to its face value. This made it an attractive coin for collectors, especially when silver prices started to rise in the 1970s and 1980s. However, the 1965 coin was produced in such large quantities that, unlike some other silver coins from earlier decades, it was never as scarce or highly collectible. The 1965 Kennedy half-dollar represents a pivotal moment in U.S. coinage history, transitioning from the silver-rich coins of the past to the modern clad coins we are familiar with today. Though it might not be the most rare or valuable Kennedy half-dollar, it remains an iconic coin, rich in history and meaning. The coin serves as a lasting tribute to President Kennedy and is a reminder of the changes in the nation during the 1960s. That's it for today's video, folks. If you found this helpful, make sure to hit that like button, and if you want more content on coins, history, and values, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the comments if you have a 1965 Kennedy half-dollar or any other cool coins in your collection. I'd love to hear about it. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep on collecting.